What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Hellbound Garage. Today, we're going to get that flatbed that's currently underneath that tarp mocked up and mounted to my Toyota Tundra. Now, I would have very much liked to start this video by picking up a bigger weld tank, because if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I've been having a problem with weld gas or shielding gas. I can literally get one pass around my flatbed and I run out of gas because I'm using this little guy right here. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't changed. I've run into a bunch of marketplace sellers that have flaked or not responded or whatever. You figure you're willing to spend a couple $100 on weld tanks, they'd get back to you, but none of them ever do. So instead of picking up a new tank, we are gonna go and get this little guy filled up. Alright, so we just got back from picking up our filled tank. Now, this tank actually came from Farm and Fleet. It's like a tractor supply store here in the Midwest, if you don't know what that is, instead of the normal air gas that I go to. And that's because air gas didn't have any. Fun fact though, that size bottle actually cheaper to fill at Farm and Fleet than it is at air gas. So, you know, kind of worked out. But it's on to the next step of prep to get the bed off of the truck. And that is actually going to be removing the tire gate that everybody loves so much. The tire gate and the bumper. It's gonna be sad to see it go because it's been on my truck for 2 years after I built it, but you know, progress, right? So let's get this sucker off here. It's relatively easy. I got the 3 lug nuts holding the wheel on, and then there are, I don't see if you see the little red handles, there are 4 pins you pull and the whole thing comes out. Now, it sounds easy, but it's not, because of those holes and those pins are really tight fit. So I actually, most of the time they'll get just a sliver of rust in them, and they're really hard to get out. So just spritz them with a little bit of WD-40 and they'll pull right up. So let's get to it. Now that I'm taking this off my truck, I guess I can kind of explain how I designed it, how I built it, and maybe give you guys an idea if this is something you are into. If I was smart, I'd keep this to myself, because there have been plenty of people that have asked how it's made, how it's attached, but not really doing this for the money side of it. I did it because it's something I wanted and they didn't offer it. So I'll spin you around here real quick and I'll explain how this was all attached to the truck. I've got these 2 essentially L brackets, one on each side, and in the very center right here you can see that it's at an angle. This other one is at the exact opposite angle. So how this goes together is you've got these 2 brackets right here, and they wrap around here and grab onto this, and then the 2 bolt holes on the back side are actually what holds this frame in place on both sides. So got the bracket, got the holes, but anyways, after you've got those in, then you've got this bracket right here that is a clamshell that slides over the ends and then bolts it all together. Hope that made sense. But the reason he did it that way is, one, I had the industrial lift gate on the truck when I bought it. Didn't know what mounting holes were good, didn't know how much was actually like original. Part of it was welded to the bed, so I kind of had to use what was there to build off of. So that's why I did it the way I did. And if you just built one big frame, it wouldn't fit. Those brackets couldn't wrap around, and there's absolutely no way that you could, you know, put that on there. It's mechanically locked in place once that little bracket is in there. There's no way that it can come off unless those two center bolts that are nylocked rattle themselves free. Pretty much impossible to have that. I mean, it strengthens the whole back end of the truck. I did forget one thing, and that is this spot right here. So I notched these out, and then I literally took the notch that I cut out, flipped it, and welded it on the inside, and those sit right here, and that is where the original tailgate would swing. So overall, it's a super simple design, but super strong. Like I said, I've had it on there 2 years, never once had a problem. None of the bolts have ever come out. It's been a-okay. But anyways, that's what that is. So now we can move on to the next step of prepping the bed, and that is going to be removing the rear bumper.
In my veins, I've been driving this train, years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame, cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed, all the squad here to play, and I've got something to say.
Film time lapse, I jumped forward a little bit. The rear bumper is actually really easy to take off. It's just 4 bolts, at least for my application. Super easy, super sturdy. Anyways, I went ahead, took the taillights out, as well as disconnected the part of the wiring harness that was attached to the bed itself, and have that just loose underneath the truck. And I also disconnected the fuel fill from the bed. There's a bracket on the inside of the bed that holds for more structure. Mine was really rusty, so I just ended up taking my Sawzall to it, and I'll have to figure out some kind of fabricated little bracket to hold it in place, because that was really bad. The bolts themselves, all I had to do was touch them, and the whole heads just kind of fell apart, but there was enough of it on there that you couldn't get it off, so Sawzall it was. And then what I didn't video was I actually got the bed bolts off, and the one that actually came out completely is this guy. So not too shabby, but you can tell where the rust ate away at it. The one that wasn't like this, or the 5 that wasn't like this, ended up coming up like that. So I have rusty bolts still stuck in my bed, which is fine because I'm not going to end up using these stock locations with the height that I want this truck bed to be at. I did have to take a die grinder and actually cut the head off the 6th bolt, because it was completely seized, and the T55 torque bit that I had rounded the head completely off, so I ended up having to cut it out. But it is relatively loose. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get this truck bed off this frame, and this is how we're gonna get it out. So I got my engine hoist out here, no big deal, lifts thousands of pounds, and then I got a couple of truck straps that are rated about 500 pounds a piece. I do not care about this bed whatsoever, because it's far beyond gone, and I'm never going to be able to sell anything off of it. It's just shot. It's scrap metal, if it's even scrap metal. So I've got the hooks into the 4 corners of the bed, and I got them tight, but not crazy tight. I want the lift itself to bring up a little bit of the tension of the straps. So this is what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna video the whole thing, so if it falls, if it fails, you're gonna see it. Fail number one. One of the hooks came off the loops, so I'm gonna get it resituated, and we'll try it again.
I lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And now you go wish you shut the fuck up real bad. is overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude. Crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently. Thanks for trying.
Attempt number 2 worked. The strap that snapped actually was weak on the eyelet. I looked at it and it was frayed on one end. I just didn't notice. So I busted out a brand new one. I don't know where all my ratchet straps went. I got to buy some more. I'm definitely buying some heavier duty ones because the flatbed that's underneath that tarp over there, it's definitely heavier than the bed that just came off. So, but yeah, it's off. And you can definitely tell that the frame is definitely replaced at some point because the frame itself is in pretty good shape, minus like the spots that the bed sat, and the suspension that was on here and like this bracket was existing, and they bolted it back to the bed, so things like that. And I always wondered why my truck sounded the way it did, and well, I now know why. But it definitely looks tiny without the bed on it. So for the time being, I am going to wrap it up. I'm going to leave everything as it sits right now, and we'll come back tomorrow because I'm running out of daylight. Update time. I got this done. So if you can't tell, it's all mocked up in place for exactly where I want it. I've got it spaced out in the cab. I've got the right angle of the bed going this way. I guess that's terrible representation. This way. I've got the height between the tire and the bed that I want. And all of that information was taken from the bed prior to me removing it. So I have it actually all written down. Just my little notes. And I got the bed out of the way. And this is the whole reason that this project is happening. So this is mid-tire well. There is literally nothing here. Like, this is bed liner. So that whole area is gone on both sides. And then up pretty much wherever it bolted to the bed, plus some extra spaces. And I'm not really sure why they did it, but they have like seam sealer there. Not really sure why you would do that. But if you were curious, that bed is way beyond saving. So right now I am waiting for these right here. There's eventually going to be 12 of these guys. And they're the brackets that are going to be welded to the frame as well as be welded to the bed. And they're pretty much going to all be identical, but they're going to be different based on where they're located on the frame, because as you can tell, this frame gets wider towards the cab and it goes down farther than in the rear. So I'm essentially making them in pairs, going to bolt them together so they don't move, place them on the frame where I want them, and then tack weld them in place. And then after I get everything figured out, then I'll finish weld it. But that's what I got going on right now. Once I get everything tacked into place, I'll catch up with you. Alright, update time. As you can tell, no more engine hoist. So, good news, right? Let me flip you around. Alright, so here it is. Whoa, focus. There we go. That is definitely the sketchiest thing I've ever had to do. But I got 1 mount, 2 mount, 3 mount, 4 mount. And the gas tank is literally right there, so I was welding on top of the gas tank. Definitely not my funnest moment, and definitely top the scale of sketchy, but we got it done. They aren't completely welded. I do have to finish weld. There are some of the brackets that inside I want to get them welded just to add an extra layer of strength, and I have to weld the tops of the brackets that are on the flatbed itself. But that's pretty much good, and considering the amount of force it took me to break my tack welds, I'm gonna say that it's safe to drive around. I ran out of wire, so I have a little section on one of the brackets that I still have to weld, but even then it does have half of the welding done on it, so I'm going to call it good for the moment, seeing I do have to get more wire. The next thing on the list of things to do is wiring in the lights. So we're going to get to that. That way I can finally drive my truck again. Update time again. It got dark last night, but I was feeling motivated and I wasn't sure I was going to get this done before I have to go somewhere and pick something up today. So I worked through the night and I got my turn signals, my brake lights, my running lights, all wired up. So let me show you what I got going on here. I will tell you right off the bat, this is temporary. I'm not a fan of these connectors. I will be doing splices and heat shrink, as well as tightening all this stuff up, because there is a bunch of loose wire on both sides. So I will get that cleaned up, as well as get the reverse light in. But in order to get my turn signals to work right, I did have to put in a resistor. With the way that these style of LED lights work, this resistor is jumped between the turn signal and the power for the turn signal and the ground for the turn signal. You can kind of see it here, but that gets it to fully flash instead of do the fast flash. I'm not sure how much of this you're going to be able to see, but let me get you set up and I will turn on the lights and show you how everything's going to look when it's all lit up. Alright, real quick, I will let you know how I got this all wired up. And the first thing is I figured out the ground. Of course, they're all white on all 6 of the bulbs for the factory setup, so I was able to figure out that that was the ground. Got that hooked up, easy peasy. The next deal was the turn signal, which once again, pretty self-explanatory, 1 wire. The hard one is the brake and regular tail light. So the only thing I could do is literally cut 1 wire and then turn on the lights in the truck and see which one came out. Normally I just step on the brake, and if the brake didn't come on, well, then I knew I cut the brake wire and wired it up that way. Simple logic. Knocked them down one by one. Anyways, that's how I got that done. I think that is going to do it for this video, because what I'm going to do in a little bit will run over into the next video. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Until the next one.